Hey guys, in today's video I'll give you a few tips that will help you crush your next documentary shoot as a DP or a camera operator. I just returned from a 10-day shoot in Ibiza and I'm staying at my brother's place in Prague. I haven't really been feeling 100%, probably because of the drastic weather change from Ibiza to Prague, which is very cold right now. And to be honest, I really had to push myself to make the video today, but I said to myself that I want to stay consistent for the next few months, so here we go. When I got into documentary filmmaking, I had this false belief that because it's documentary, you kind of just let the things develop in front of you and then capture it with the camera. And to a certain point it's true. But if you really want to create great documentaries, you better be prepared. So when the things that are really important happen, you know how to react and you know how to capture them. And don't get me wrong, I love the surprise element that comes with documentary filmmaking, but you know what they say, luck favors the prepared. And that's exactly what the next tips will help you to do. Prepare for your documentary shoots so you can crush them.
With wet plate photography, I feel like I find my true calling as an artist. It really is a lifelong journey and I'm still just at the beginning, but getting a successful tintype for me is much more rewarding than making a digital image on a computer screen.
Let's first focus on the things that you can do prior to the shoot. And again, bear in mind that these tips are for someone who's a camera operator or a DP and maybe is not extremely involved in the pre-production process and in the creative process. First, you want to get familiar with the project and with the vision of the director. Going over a director's treatment, mood board, or even a script is always a good idea, so you get a much better idea of what you're trying to communicate. This will help you to keep the vision in mind while shooting, and at the same time you will be able to bring your own touch to it. If there's no mood board, I would highly recommend you to create one, together with the help of the director, so on the day of the shoot you are both on the same page. After knowing what the vision for the project is, I always create a shot list. And yes, I know this might sound a little strange for some of you, creating a shot list for a documentary shoot, but trust me when I say that it's absolutely crucial. The way I create shot lists is that I always think about the scenes that we're gonna be shooting on each day, and then I go to Milanote and I create shot lists for each scene. I usually try to put more focus on the scenes that are visually interesting and that have some action that supports the story. An example could be an athlete in his training session, or a painter who's painting something, and so on and so forth. Of course, you need walking shots that are a bit more contemplative, but you don't want to end up with a film that is just full of walking shots. So always try to focus on the scenes where there's some action happening. And ideally, that action supports the story. It really depends how deep you want to go with these shot lists. But I would always suggest you to get the basic coverage. So establishing shot, wide shot, medium shot, maybe a few close-ups, and then some experimental shots, maybe a POV, detail of the hands, and so on and so forth. And once again, I really love the surprise element of documentary filmmaking, but having basic coverage of the scenes through the shot list will really help you to tell a story, and the editor will thank you later. And as I said, it will give you more freedom to then get creative and spontaneous. And last but not least, from the pre-production tips, make sure that you prepare your gear. The worst thing that can happen is that you show up on the shoot, your batteries are empty or you forget your microphones. So always try to prep your gear prior to the shoot. What I do, I create a gear list in Milanote, and then as I'm packing, I kind of check whatever I already packed. This way I make sure that I bring all my gear and I don't forget anything. Now let's jump into actual shooting tips. Firstly, communicate. What I mean by this is that when you show up on the shoot, it's good to get familiar with the people that will be there, whether that's director, the characters, or anyone else who's around, and basically just have a small talk. Introduce yourself, ask them who they are, what they do. This way you can create a little personal connection with them, and it will make them feel much more comfortable in front of the camera. Communication is also extremely important when you're trying to get your vision across. Whether you're a director or a DP, you want to be able to communicate what type of scenes you want to shoot, how do you imagine the scene to evolve, and what type of shots you want to get. If you can improve in your communication, the whole experience will be much more enjoyable for you and also for the people on the other side of the camera. Guys, the light is changing so much. I really need to get a studio soon. So another thing I've started doing recently and I would recommend you is to pause. Because I'm sure that you know this feeling that you have within you just before the shoot is this excitement, and in my experience it can sometimes even turn into anxiety or in some sort of a rushed energy. And so making a little pause, 30 seconds or 1 minute just before you start can really help you to ground yourself, clear your mind, and go into the shoot with much more clarity and calm energy. So give it a try and let me know. Next tip goes back to the shot list. And when we are in the midst of shoot, things are happening quite fast. Maybe we are not running on schedule and there's no one to actually watch over the shot list. What can happen is that we forget to look at it. And in this scenario, it's good to learn to think in scenes. This, of course, comes with practice, but the sooner you can start doing it, the better. It basically means that whatever you're shooting, you always have at the back of your mind the establishing shot, wide shot, medium shot, close up, and so on. And if you can't keep it at the back of your mind, you can also keep it at the back of your camera. Once again, this will help you make sure that you will end up with enough footage to tell the story. Another tip I would give you when it comes to shooting is to hold your shots longer. From my own experience, I know that when I look at the monitor and I'm very focused, it sometimes feels like the time kind of slows down. And what in my mind seems like 10 seconds, it's actually 3 to 4 seconds of the actual footage. And so a good practice is to basically just hold your shots longer so you give enough space for the scenes and action to develop in front of the camera, and you also have then enough footage for the post-production. And if you're documenting something important, don't be even afraid to roll for a minute, 2 or 3, as long as what is happening in front of the camera will be important for the story. Next one, try to be consistent with your focal lengths. And what I mean by this is that when you're deciding to shoot a project and you're shooting it either on primes, on zooms, decide what focal lengths you're gonna use. Maybe you're gonna shoot on 24, 50, and 85. And if that's your decision, then try to stick to it. If you can do this, it will help you to create much more unified and, I would say, more professional looking film, because you're not moving between focal lengths and you're basically giving yourself a framework for the project. As I said, do the same thing if you're on the zoom lenses. I know that with the zoom lens, there's a lot of temptation, to zoom in and out. But when you do that, try to make sure that you're sticking to those focal lengths that you've decided to use prior to going into the shoot. A small extra tip here would also be to keep your blanking on your monitor. So if you know that you're delivering in 4:3 or 2:39, just make sure that you have those bars there. So when you're shooting, you're already framing for that aspect ratio. And the last tip I'll give you is try to focus on creating a world around the character. From my experience, I know it's very easy to just direct our focus on the character and on what he's doing. But for the viewer, you also want to create the world that the character lives in. So try to focus on capturing, small details. Maybe it's leaves moving in the wind. Maybe it's a macro shot of the environment. Maybe it's just establishing shots of the environment. This will help you to create a better world for the character. And thanks to that, you will draw the audience in much more than if you're just focusing on capturing the character and his or her actions. And that's it for today, guys. I hope that these tips will help you crush your next documentary shoot, whether it's your shoot or you're getting hired for one. If you would like to dive deeper on these things, I also offer one-on-one coaching, which you can check in the description of this video. And with that coaching, we can go to anything that you like, whether that's pre-production, post-production, shooting, storytelling, and so on and so forth. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next Tuesday with the new video. Peace.